the more intensely you feel a high, the more intensely you'll feel a low. And these things are like very, very
relative
to one another. They have they have this relationship where you can like pick the moderate path and you will experience less volatility, or you go for more and more ridiculous outcomes, you have that on the upside and the downside. So we've talked a lot about that, but that I think
welcome to another episode of Not Investment Advice. We got the Christmas holiday special here. And if you guys were listening to us last week, you know we're recording both of these on the same day. So we do have new beanies just to keep it fresh. But we got
the thumbnail. We don't want to look the same on the thumbnail.
We got to keep things fresh here. But anyway, we got the wrap up of the year. We did this last year. People enjoyed it. So we're going to be talking about our favorite stuff from the year, NIA episodes, the biggest wins, losses, company of the year, person of the year, music, movies, everything like that. Boys, let's get straight into it. Let's start with an NIA specific one. What was your favorite episode we recorded this year? Over to you guys. I can go first if you need time to think.
Hit it, Bilal.
go.
All right. My two favorites, I'm going to do a category each. So my favorite one was Ideas That Change Our Lives, episode 103. We talked about that in the last pod. I think that was a experimental idea. I think Trung maybe suggested it. And we did a couple of these kind of like single topic kind of sort of format. So it felt like the good stuff we get out of an AMA, which is a discussion, and that's normally the best sort of podcast we do, I think, is like this bouncing off each other, exploring ideas, learning new things together, sharing that out. And obviously you get a bit more bants in that way as well. But then also, I kind of like that single topic. It kind of gave us something to focus on. And so that was probably the one I liked the most. And then I'll just give a bonus one for guests, because we do have some guests. And it's hard to pick one. We had a lot of good guests, but probably the George Mack one. Eric Jorgensen was close as well, because he was great. He like really got the vibe because he listens to the pod. So does George. But George, I think, was a really interesting one because we've wanted to have him on the show for a while. And he's just a fun guy. So those would be my two favorite. I cheated there. But yeah.
Dude, that was good. That was solid. What I want to say though is like 2023 for listeners, a little inside baseball, is that we went a lot less on guests, and it goes back to something we talked about last week. It's just like, you know what, this space is like, it's all like we have advertisers which require like big name guests to like get their brands out there. It's like we're doing this for ourselves, which means we actually talked in our chats and behind the scenes. It's just like, you know, it's just more enjoyable sometimes not to have guests, right? It's just like, so that's what the listeners can come for. And again, we love the guests. I mean, shout out to Soren Iverson, a great designer, was also. I think
that was really fun too.
Jorgo, and Soren were. I don't think we had very many guests this year at all. I mean, we all know the number one guest of 2022.
That's true.
One Michael Saylor.
Was that 2022? I can't remember what year that
crazy, was. Crazy, right? I'll say the best episode for me, which is just a bit on the running joke. Last week we said we answered a question of what 3 words do you think of when you say NIA for us? And one of them was C4, the pre-workout I've been taking. And I think the most pre-workout-y I went for any episode was on that OpenAI explainer, which was like a month ago.
Oh yeah, you were on fire.
I think Jack was actually away that one. And I must have had so much. I had an insane amount of caffeine. And I'll tell you why, actually. It's because I didn't sleep very much the weekend before, because I was busy trying to get dopamine hits from OpenAI memes. So I was so mentally like, it's just disgusting. But ready to spit hot fire. So
this is what we said was your Super Bowl, yeah?
Yeah.
That week, you and the boys in your group chat were just going crazy. That was a good one as well, yeah. Jack, what about you, mate?
I think, I don't know my exact favorite one, but all the X acquisition stuff, that whole little era, I think was my favorite. Pontificating about that stuff, that was fun.
I think we should call it out. Jack called it, man. He's like, when Twitter changed its name to X, I was like, oh, that's a lot of mind share they're throwing out the window. And Jack's just like, no, Trung, you're looking at it wrong. Now they can shove new things into this little entity, this shell. And sure enough, he called the XAI move. And there you go. X, for the people that don't know, as shareholders in X, formerly Twitter, now own 25% of XAI, which is the Grok chat bot large language model.
With the newest training data available to humankind.
The most up-to-date.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, actually, by the way, I forgot. We had Luke Burgess on. That was this year. I thought that was way before.
I thought that was 2022. Oh, Luke was great.
No, I just checked. Yeah, that was earlier this year. Mimetic design guy. Yeah, so that was a bonus shout out to him as well.
Man, boys, if you're... one sec, let me just do a quick screen share. Sorry to interrupt. I just did this by sorted this by popular. It's just funny, man. We've cataloged a lot of interesting stuff, like Elon's 9.2%.
Oh yeah, with our boy Nick Majuli,
Ligma Johnson, all of this.
Also, I have to say, those thumbnails, man.
They
the
were
Jack
good,
thumbnails.
man. I need to bring it back.
You might have to bring it back.
No pressure.
What about because it does take you time, but like they're so good, man. Oh my god, beautiful. It's tick. Wait. Look at the Tron one.
Shout
that
out
one
to
stood
Mary
out.
Childs, 2022.
Oh yeah, she was great too. Man, it's been a good run. We've been doing some fun stuff. All right, let's move on to the next question. Biggest win of the year. This is normally a personal thing, so whether that's personal, professional, but for each of us, I think you guys have had some big ones. So I'll let you guys go first.
I'll actually say one. I mean, listen, I'm not going to be a cliche guy, but listen, family's healthy.
That's a huge win, bro.
That's a huge win. The other one, which is much more NIA related, you guys will enjoy, is I didn't look at my portfolio for all of 2022, and I didn't look again until last week. So I literally did not look at my portfolios for 2 years. That's over 700
Now you're refreshing
days.
That every day.
Now I'm refreshing. But the reason I bring that up, biggest win, obviously, family healthy. That's a cliche one, but an easy one. I'm sure we all feel the same. The other one, very NIA related, is not looking at my portfolio. From the January 2022 sell-off, so 2 years ago, when we were just, the post-COVID high was just, and Jay Powell's like, it's over, boys. Just the interest rate hikes. I'm sorry, I can't look. I just cannot look. And my goodness, am I happy I didn't look, because I probably would have sold out of fear. And I'm still down from the peakiest peaks for some of the assets I bought in 2021. But just if I had panic sold, it would have been brutal. So the reason I bring that up is just like Charlie Munger, rest in peace.
Just keep
the
buying,
wealth
bro.
Isn't not in buying and selling, it's in the waiting. So it was just nice. So for me, the win was not looking at the devastation and just waiting through the 2 years. And it was like, it's nice, man. It's nice to know.
That's a big win. That's a good lesson.
Just don't look.
Learned and actually in practice. Jack, what about you, mate? Anything coming to mind? Biggest win? You had some crazy stuff this year.
My goodness.
Did you do the auction this year? Was that you had all the art stuff, the Miami stuff? I mean, lots of big wins there.
Yeah, hard to say one specific one. I think the just in general being able to follow my instinct a little bit more in the art world is a lot of fun. It comes with its downsides for sure. It's like it's very different than the old configuration of VV where it's like input. This is like the system that works, and you know, like trying to stay in that routine to just be a little bit more I don't know, being a little bit, well, not even a little bit more, almost completely changing that to have no system whatsoever. Just like wake up, see what you're interested in, make some stuff or don't. It's a very, very different animal. I don't even know if I'll call that a win or a loss. That's what I would say about this year is like, it's just like so contrasting to how I was operating in 2020 and 2021, which I think was it's like how we met. The world was so different then. Like the path that I imagined I was going to be charting from that point forward again changed at the beginning of 2022 when it's like, oh, this is not the environment that will persist forever, right? Like stuff is changing so quickly. Culture is changing, like the way people use the internet is changing. So I had this like odd departure from that, but I think looking back at the work from the year, I'm extremely proud of it, but it's also so much more chaotic of a process to produce. So it's kind of a win and a loss combined, where you're like, you know, departing the routine, but that does throw a lot of wrenches into a lot of the rest of your life. But the work is cool, so it's a hard answer. I'm gonna combine the win and loss in that one, boys, if that's an appropriate.
No, that's perfect.
Yin and yang.
Yeah,
that's actually one of the sets that we shipped for one of the projects was based on this little talk by Alan Watts. You guys know Alan Watts?
Yeah, legend.
Incredible. Talks about this idea of you can't have more yin than yang. It's like the existence of a positive thing is brought to light by the fact that there is contrast in a negative thing. So it's like, and I think I visualized this thing a couple of years ago where it's like, the more highs, like the more intensely you feel a high, the more intensely you'll feel a low. And these things are like very, very
relative
to one another. They have they have this relationship where, you know, you can like pick the moderate path and you will experience less volatility, or you go for more and more ridiculous outcomes, you have that on the upside and the downside. So we've talked a lot about that, but that I think has been, you know, made more obvious to me, I guess, through the last year or so, where you have these like massive, you know, even I suppose externally, a lot of the time externally recognized as like a next step in some way, but you have things that occur on the other side of that too. So not to be too cryptic about it, but it's just been a mad year.
Yeah, can imagine, man.
Love that.
Sounds like mostly W's there, man. You've had a lot of big wins. But no, I get what you're saying.
This is not me complaining. This is not me complaining. It's like
that's a good reminder, though.
Grateful for all of it, and also like very, you know, there's a lot of like moments that bring you back down to earth among the highs and the.
Oh yeah,
that's good times.
Definitely, that's a great one, man. I love that. You know what? If we ever do a ideas that change our lives part 2, I'd love to go deeper into that Watts thing you just said there, because
I gotta send you boys a link to it too. Incredible.
He's so good, man. He's like the OG, like actual real profound philosophical, got a great voice. Like on YouTube you can just type his name and be there for 17 hours in one session sort of vibe. Incredible. Really beautiful stuff.
Didn't Sam Harris take a lot of his audio and put it into the Waking Up app?
Probably.
Oh yeah, that I haven't used the Waking Up one as much, but I haven't seen that. But that would be nice to have in there, because he passed away, right? He's not around.
Yeah. A long time ago, a couple of decades ago, I think.
Yeah. Legend, though. All right, I'll do anything else on that, Jap, before we move on.
No, thanks for listening to the ramble.
No, that was great. I was gonna say the thing you said about you can't appreciate the good without the bad, but a much simpler, very English thing for me to talk about the weather. I'm in California right now, and funnily enough, it's actually not the best this week, but when it's sunny all the time, people don't appreciate it, man. When you're near the beach all the time, they don't even go half the time. And when you're from little grey England, I don't know, Trunk, where Vancouver's, I don't know, I mean, obviously it gets really cold.
AF.
Grey as well, right? So you just appreciate, like, just being in the sun, man. We talked about it on the pod, like just how much of a difference it makes your mood. And when you don't have that contrast, you don't necessarily have that same feeling, because a lot of it is psychological as well. So I know it's a very obvious example, but it makes sense. I'll do my biggest W as well. I mean, I kind of talked about this last year, and it sounds boring, but I'll just be honest. Like when I hear the biggest win for myself, my thought on it is I hope the next 30 years I'm saying the same thing as well, which is the health stuff. We talked about it on the pod a bunch. But yeah, since I actually went back and listened to what I said for this last year, and I looked at my own progress at that point, and just, it's been nice to reflect on how much positive change there's still been, even after that point from last year, because I'd already made quite a lot of progress with the health stuff. And it kind of ties into the biggest L too, because I have had generally a really incredible year. And again, getting my health in order and stuff was really honestly my primary like focus, like beyond work, beyond everything else. And so was able to be as active as I've ever been. I was looking at numbers today, like walking 5-6 miles or running at times as well every day, even through being sick. Like I wasn't doing it while I was sick, I'm saying, but just the average. And just making all those things a long-term thing for myself has been really, really incredible. So I don't want to bore you with all the details there, but that's just been really, really positive for me. And hopefully that continues. And the biggest L, we'll transition into that. I'll just quickly say mine. On a similar theme, I've had a lot of injuries this year, because going from my old body to now is like 45, 50 pounds difference. Muscle has been gained.
Incredible, dude.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's been really, really amazing, like life-changing, really, like energy-wise and just everything, just feeling good. But you kind of forget that, for 10 years, I wasn't being consistent with all the things I used to do. Like I played sports every day of my life as a kid, was a massive sports person. And then for 10 years, I was very inconsistent. So then, you guys might have this when you hit a certain age, you just go into the gym or go and play tennis or sport, whatever you're playing, and think you're that 16-year-old or 21-year-old, and you go to lift the same deadlift or the bench press or go and hit a shot, and you just think you can get away with it, and you just can't get away with it anymore. You need to do the stretching, you need to do the prep, you need to do all the stuff around it. And that's kind of been something I'll be focusing more this year, is just like getting beyond a lot of those injuries. And also like, accepting that they're going to happen. Like I've had a bad knee throughout that whole time. My shoulder's been messed up for the last 2-3 months. I can't do any like push movements properly. So that's frustrating. And honestly, like just the mental frustration you get from that is kind of the big L, is like I have to keep navigating that, getting this progress. And then I'm like, I need to take a month off doing X, Y, Z. So that's been a little bit of an L for me, but kind of natural and understandable. So that'll be a focus for me, just really strengthening a lot of my weak areas and focusing on, just continuing to get in the best shape and functional health for myself. And then the last one I'll just mention on that, outside of the health, because that can be a little repetitive, is just for me, I wrote like more adventure and travel, because I know you guys know, like I do travel quite a lot. And even this year we did an amazing like 6 weeks in Europe and stuff. I know that's incredibly lucky that I can do that. But generally speaking, I normally do like way longer trips and a lot more this kind of adventure style stuff. And I purposely kind of put that on pause for a lot of this year, because I wanted to be in one place to focus on just having a routine and stuff. But I think next year I want a little bit more of that. And so, yeah, fingers crossed, I'll try to get that going and feel that kind of part of my brain that I kind of have missed a little bit. And especially while I don't have kids and stuff, I just really want to make the most of that time. So yeah, that'll be another focus for me. What about you boys? Biggest L? I know Jack, you kind of mentioned one. I don't know if you have any others, but Trung as well.
I'll actually jump on Jack's idea of yin and yang. So we're joking about not looking at the portfolio and tying your emotion to this number that's largely out of your control. The yang of that, if we want to call it the yin, is that when Jack talked about last week trying to reduce his phone time, I clearly have an unhealthy relationship with my phone. It's just like, it is not like, I'd say at least 2 or 3 times a week, get into these deep dopamine viral drips where it's like you're hunting, like just I'm looking for a piece of content that will just give me that fix, and that's literally just the other side of it. I've substituted out looking at the portfolio for like these random X numbers. Fair, yeah. And so I'll throw something out there. So we've talked on this podcast about, you guys remember the CT win, the philosopher that talked about how the gamification of how Twitter gamified arguments and rhetoric. He actually just came out with the paper last week. We should actually get him on the podcast. He expanded on that idea, and it just perfectly nailed our unhealthy relationship with smartphones. Part of it, shout out to George Mack with his a cocaine phone and Kale phone. So I have still use the Kale phone. It's really helped me with deep reading. There's nothing on that phone. It's an iPhone 8. It's small screen. I put it on black and white. I just have Kindle on it and some good note taking. That's really helped. But this paper about value capture, CT Nguyen expands on the idea of like, you really have to be careful about outsourcing your value to these numbers. And he means likes on X, a number of newsletter subscribers. In Bilal's case, maybe like number of steps he takes a day. It's like, these aren't necessarily bad things. It's good to measure things, but be wary that you're not literally outsourcing your value system to big tech, which has given you numbers, which people love to follow numbers. And I think that's a very powerful concept.
That's a good point.
I'll give you one example, a very salient example. I send my email out. It hits inboxes on 6:30 a.m. on Saturdays. My sleeps on Friday are across the board my worst sleeps because I'm anticipating waking up to seeing what the open rate is or what messages I received.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah,
right? You know
that's
what I mean?
It's like, point,
that's value capture, right? That's literally, I've developed a physiological connection to something which is absurd. Like I should just not.
Would you change the time for that reason?
No, I haven't changed it yet. I think I should. I think I'm going to change it next year to after I wake up. It's
like, later in the day.
Why would I let that happen, right? But then you're talking about value capture. The reason I send it early is because I'm on the West Coast. I want to catch people in the morning. Enough. So now, like, I'm literally trying to get a couple more basis points on open rates at the expense of my sleep. So I'm saying that's an L because clearly I've been value captured by this random number. So I'll say that's my biggest loss because I haven't been able to deal with it.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. I will say I did, just because it's fresh in my brain, I did listen to ours last year. I think you'd mentioned something about it then as well, like, but more so the apps. So like the dopamine of that. And then, so I think you've probably made quite a lot of progress with the kale versus cocaine phone approach. That's probably been a massive win for you. And, but I think we're always going to be struggling with some element of that. So I've done the same. So that I did recently get the little mini iPad. That's actually been the equivalent of my kale versus cocaine phone. It's not exactly the same thing, but when I go out, I do keep my phone on me, but it's completely on silent and I have it like in my pocket so I don't feel any vibrations or anything. And on this, I only have like reading apps. I don't have anything there's basically a screen of all this positive stuff. And then the second screen is like video stuff that I'm going to use on the plane, which is fine, but I'm not walking in a park watching Netflix.
The third screen is the degen stuff.
There we go. Yeah, I don't even know. I can't even put my portfolio app on there because I know I'll be addicted to that. Especially right now. All jokes aside, in the last few weeks when things have started picking up, I did notice myself moving that CoinStats app back to the front home screen, and I've got a little net worth tracking app I use that is, it's a bit addictive, which is really bad. So it's not good to. Not that it makes, that sounds really sad, but I'm just being honest. That's like something we all have an equivalent of. And it literally doesn't make any difference to our lives for a lot of people. So it's not worth giving it too much time. All right, Jack, anything else on your side before? I think you already gave one, but let's move on.
Keep going.
So let's go. We're going to do person of the year, company of the year, meme of the year, music. Which one do we want to go first?
Let's go company of the year.
Let's go company. All right. I think we've all got one in mind, which is the obvious one, but Trung, let's go to Trung first.
I'm not going to go first. I'll let you guys go first.
All right, Jack, you got one?
I'll be X Incorporated, boys.
There we go. One. Everything app. Here we go. Yeah, Jack, man. What's your logic for this one, mate?
It's where the fountain of memes, boys. It is the arbiter of discourse, consensus, expression. Yeah, just nothing supersedes it in my mind as like a platform for connecting the world, right? And a lot of obviously the last few years there's been different people at the number one spot in that world, even in terms of usage, but I think in terms of like actual mind share and the dissemination of information that ends up everywhere else, you can't really compete with it. And obviously all of the stories around how ownership changed hands, how the brand is changing, how the policies are changing, how it's like actually changing the Overton window on everything else. Like even to say that OpenAI is, would outrank it in terms of relevance, I would disagree with that, because it's almost like a layer above that in the hierarchy of human consciousness,
upstream,
the ideas
right?
that are
It's
being
upstream.
discussed, right? They are influencing the policy of this stuff. They are, all of the discussion about OpenAI as a platform, all of the recruiting, all of the pontification about AI, it's not happening on anywhere else than this, right? And then you get to take all of that and build the competitive product on top of it. And I think
got Grok coming in too.
Yeah. I think by next year it'll be the same answer, to be honest.
Well, actually, Jack, I really like your answer, because the other side of the trade is basically every tech journal lefty that hates Elon, right? That went to Threads.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's saying, go every mainstream media article, X is dead. The Bob Iger, Disney, stop advertising. Oh, another advertising boycott, X is dead. But everything you mentioned, it's like, it still is the place. And guess what's happening next year, people? 2024. And it's an election year.
Oh,
what do you think's going to happen in 2024 on X?
You think Donald is coming back? What do you think?
Dude,
imagine what his payout
Donald
would be.
is coming back.
His payout is creator payout.
Creator.
Oh my God, that's
a viral tweet, right? Well, actually, let me read this, because if you actually do read mainstream media and are not super online, and we are biased because we are ex-super power users. You, me, and Jack more so than Bilal. But like a lot of the perception, I talk to people that don't use X, and they're like, "Oh man, is Twitter still around?" Like they believe the mainstream media narrative that's dying, right? Certainly,
incredible.
Certainly, the revenue is half. Certainly, some people have left. But let me read to you who I believe is one of the best thinkers in the world today, Tyler Cowen, the economist from Marginal Revolution. We all know him. He wrote a week ago, a small blog post. I want to read it out. He wrote the robustness of Twitter. He goes, "It has been essential for following the controversy over university presidents, the conflict in the Middle East, the unfolding of the OpenAI saga, which, to Jack's point, literally happened entirely on Twitter. And then the attempts to demonstrate superconductivity and much more. Twitter is much less than some academics in air quotes or pundits giving you a steady stream of their thoughts, and much more, quote unquote, where the action is. Some of this springs from Elon's rule changes, but a lot of it comes from having a world full of action, both good and bad. And the fullness happens, like Jack said, on X. And as a business, sure, revenue is down. As its import, like as the what's the terminology?
Town square.
The town square, and also the human connectivity tissue, the neural network for mankind. It still is. It's not as maybe at it's been peakier. Like its peak was the first year of COVID. It's absolute peak. 2020 election year. Trump was still using it, and COVID popped off. Everyone's at home. I don't think it'll ever reach that level again. But we're talking,
nuts, man. Of course it will.
You think it will? Okay.
100%.
Okay.
Jack's like, not even.
Crypto cycles. That was
bear market.
Bitcoin to $100.
You know what?
That was the last one.
The network effect has been so. It's been
Incredible.
crazy to watch.
Incredible.
Like when that thread thing dropped, we brought Turner on to chat. I actually felt like, ooh man, this is a serious hit. Nah, son. And 2024.
Yeah.
So great call. Bilal, why don't we hand it off to you?
Only thing I'd add, and so I think a great call by Jack, because the obvious answer is OpenAI. Again, like I think that was last year's answer probably. And so the only thing I'd say, I completely agree, but specifically with the wording of business, as you mentioned there, I have no idea what's going on in the back end with revenue, profitability. Like, that's the question, and business, obviously a part of a business of the year is that to a certain extent, or company of the year. So yeah, maybe as a successful, profitable, or like potential for revenue growth company, maybe that's a different question than company of the year, because company year is just significance. It's like person of the year for Time doesn't always mean they're the positive thing. They can also be like just
most relevant.
Yeah, most relevant. So for that reason, I would agree. The only thing I would challenge a little bit personally is, and I love Twitter X as much as anyone as well. Maybe not as much as YouTube, but in general, compared to an average person, I'm definitely in the top 1 to 5% of people who use it still, reading wise anyway, not necessarily posting. is a lot of the things we talk about with X is like, oh, it's the town square, and it's like where all this discussion happened, OpenAI. I would say that was always that was the case before, and that was the case before Elon Musk too. We saw revolutions happen on Twitter, right? Like literally the stuff in Egypt, like all the different protests and all the stuff that happened, that was happening on Twitter. Political discussion was happening on Twitter. So that's the only thing I would challenge. Like, I don't know. Like that was the case when Twitter was struggling as a public company as well. And so I think the problems they have are only potentially have been exacerbated to a certain extent from the fundamental old school way of running a social media platform. And that's where the glimmer of hope is, where if Elon Musk's plan comes to be, which is everything app, Grok coming in, payments, all those things, I still think it has a massive chance of like being a huge success. But if we're judging it on what we've seen so far, I don't know if that has actually moved that much forward without knowing the details. Trung might have understood a bit more by looking at the numbers that actually the data is up, like usage is up, number of seconds spent on the app is up, etc. But I think it just depends how you want to answer that question. So we could do a whole episode on that, so we'll move on. But that's the only thing. I would personally still say OpenAI, even though it's an obvious answer. You could also just say Microsoft, to be honest. The way they played it this year, getting things going with OpenAI, that whole saga, how they were coming out positively in that. But anyway, we'll see how that one goes. Let's move on to the next one.
Well, hold on. I didn't do the main company of the year, but here's the one.
Go for it.
I actually will tell you, which honestly, if we're going to talk about, is NVIDIA. The supplier.
Oh wait, that's actually a great shout. Sorry, yeah, that's definitely.
If we're talking about across influence, I mean, if AI was the story of 2023, NVIDIA is the biggest winner.
No, great shout.
Pure
Trung.
market
that's
cap
the one.
wise, they I think they added 5. I think they're up 200% this year. They're all. I don't know if we have time to check the market cap. I think it's $1 trillion company, 900 billion at this point.
They're insane, yeah.
But so their data.
No, that's the correct answer. Actually, you're right.
Yeah, I think they went from 5 billion to 15 billion. Or
245%.
Yeah. What's the market cap?
It is 1.22 trillion.
So I mean, first of all, if people want the backstory, go listen to the Acquired podcast. They have 3 episodes on NVIDIA, and they interviewed Jensen Huang, the CEO. And the thing about Jensen is this. This guy made this bet 10 years ago. His whole thing was he created a software package to integrate with the GPUs. And at 10 years ago, AI was really, I mean, people talk about AI. It's just not been real. Look at that. As Jack likes to say, parabolic. So Jensen Huang, I'm not going to name him person of the year. I have somebody else, but he probably is person of the year if we're going to say NVIDIA is the company of the year. But they're the arms dealer. They're supplying the chips to everyone that wants to play in the AI space.
They're getting that barely AI money.
Oh,
Either way, it's all trickling to them.
No matter what.
That's hitting their balance sheet.
I'm paying the Jensen Huang tax.
There we go.
But, Jensen,
that's a great shout.
What
Trung.
an absolute legend, man. Dude, this guy's an animal. He makes multi-decade bets. And the last thing I'll add is everything listening to the Acquired guys, the last thing I'll add about Jensen is the way he runs his company. It's a very flat structure. He has like 60 direct reports. Every day they send him like 3 bullet points. And I think he says something which is pretty awesome to hear from a high-performing company. And he's just like, when people come here, they don't ask about, hey, man, like, what's my career progression? It's like, no, we're doing a sick and important mission. Like, you're going to wake up and you're going to care. And that's what's happening. People waking up and they're caring. The last question, the last point I'll make about them is like, how much of this revenue is pulled forward? And the chip industry, the semiconductor industry, the big thing about them is that they also go through cycles because it takes so long to develop these chips and so capex intensive that you make a big investment, you fill the supply, but then you overdo it, and then the demand falls, and you kind of go in cycles. So a lot of people are wondering, did they just pull forward a ton of AI spend, and now are they going to have to fill out this valuation? Not investment advice. I think we actually talked about them earlier this year as in like investment things, like non-investment advice. But yeah, that's the company of the year for me.
No, that's a great shout, Trunk. Yeah. And all right, great. And I guess that leads us on to Person of the Year. I don't have any strong opinions on this one, so I'll let you guys go for it.
I got one I don't think either of you boys are going to say.
Do it.
Andrew Tate.
Ooh, here we go. Hot take. Here we go. Jack trying to hit the YouTube algorithm here. Here we go. Here we go. Jack, let's zoom out here.
Explain yourself.
Hear Andrew Tate, Person of the Year. Go for it.
I'm talking notoriety or like rise to fame or like meteoric. Nobody knows who this person is to like, I think it's a pretty recognizable. I think that broke the Twitter bubble, no?
Or like whatever you think of him, like normies know about him.
Yeah, I'm not, this is not me endorsing anybody. I'm just saying like
you're
outside
doing the
of like
Time
saying
magazine
Elon Musk or whatever. It's like, yeah, obviously, but this is like measured on a pure like impressions going parabolic on a personality. This guy is up there.
I like how it goes back to what Bilal said about however you frame it, right? Like company of the year, you frame it one way is like as a business, as a stock. You're framing it specifically on what actually wants something you care a lot about, and we talk about attention.
Yeah, and I think it's more indicative of like cycles of attention and like the new mechanisms of fame than we have previously experienced, you know, like people that can game an algorithm and become world famous in 3 months for a sustained period of time and have platforms on all of these different, like in my mind, if you look back and like, you know, was Elon Musk the person of the year in 2022 or 2024 or 2025? That says something about what he's building, what he was focusing on at that time. But those years are like less, it's less
like
important, the dictation of the year.
Right?
Yeah, I'm saying like
years,
to a person that embodies like how culture operates or how the internet is affecting culture and information is being disseminated. Like even saying like Taylor Swift to me is uninteresting because it's like, oh yeah, she's
been huge.
A-list celebrity for
before, right?
decades.
Yeah, fair.
This guy rose out of like whatever you want to call it, corner of Twitter to like everywhere.
I
like,
love
your
Jack
mom
coming
knows
from left field.
Your mom knows this guy's name. And that to me is a very, you know, it's very indicative of how the world operates in 2023. And if you look back and if you didn't know the name in 20 years, it would lead you down a rabbit hole of like, how did this happen?
Let me piggyback on Jack's answer here. A couple things happened in 2023 which felt like the internet speed, right? We always talk about internet speed here. Here are a couple internet speed stories. Robinhood going parabolic. That's an internet speed story, right? Wall Street Bets, Twitter.
Yeah.
What happened in 2023 was very internet speed. It touched reality. Silicon Valley Bank. People credited its demise to a bunch of VCs telling their portfolio companies to pull the money out because they read one thing, right? That's an internet speed thing.
The global village, boys.
Yeah, the global. What happened to OpenAI? That all happened on X. Sam Altman's fired. What happens? 700 plus employees start throwing heart emojis up on X. That's real-time collective bargaining on X. That's internet speed. Those two things, I love Jack's answer because it's an amoral, it's not about morality, right? We make it very clear here. Jack's already said that. It's about what of that year, and we talked about time people, right? We talked about last week with Taylor Swift.
We talked about Hitler being
what is the purpose of this, right?
At one point, yeah.
How does this individual describe that time period? Great answer, man.
Yeah, definitely out left field. Good shot. One thing I will say, I was looking at because my sense of years is completely all one big long chain right now. No, I think it might have been more 2022, but also 2023. So I don't know. I mean, do you guys remember really when did he really start popping off? Because I'm looking at trends.
I thought it was this year.
So I think when was he arrested?
Because I'm looking at Google Trends. And then I'll just show you what I'm looking at. I'm not trying to correct you. I'm just wanting to make sure.
I want to know.
Share screen. Let me just.
He was arrested in the summer of this year. So,
but that was after a year.
My time is so off.
But that's a bit. But the peak was like December 2022. But then it's still been going on. So, that's just his name. So that might have been a major story or something like that. I don't know when he was arrested. So I mean, we can probably figure this out at some point. But anyway, I still agree with what you're saying because there's been like a delayed effect.
I couldn't have called that the last part of 22, you know? I couldn't have,
exactly. Since the last time we've done this is still happened. So either way, I think the logic of it makes a lot of sense. And I think that's a really fair shout.
All right, boys.
Trung, what about you, mate? Any person you want to add?
So the other candidates we could throw out is what Time Magazine mentioned, right? They said Sam Altman, obviously CEO of OpenAI. They mentioned Messi, the move to MLS. They mentioned Taylor Swift. But you know what? The real answer is probably Jensen based on NVIDIA, but I want to go with a little curveball for myself. It's not a major one. I'm going to say Christopher Nolan for we're talking about capturing the spirit. Oppenheimer, man, forget about the Barbieheimer kind of like meme complex, how they got lucky on that. How lucky did he get? And luck in the sense of, man, he worked his ass off to make this film, but for that film to drop during the AI mania, you're talking about a piece of content, a piece of a meme to define an age. Oppenheimer, leader of the Manhattan Project, led to the creation of a nuclear bomb, which changed the world. Technology is changing the world. The AI connection. So I'm going to say, man, and here's the real reason he's the person of the year for me. He got me into the theater for the first time in 7 years to watch Oppenheimer. And you know what film I watched the last time I went to the theaters? Dunkirk. The last two movies I've seen in theater. I thought you were going to say Borat or something. No, dude, the last two movies I've seen in theaters were both Christopher Nolan films. I didn't see Tenet in theaters, but that was during COVID. But I'm going to give it to Nolan for just his personal contribution to my life.
That's great. I love that one. I don't have another one to add. That one was great. Let's go real quick, boy. Meme of the year. I'll go first because you two are the real meme masters here. But I'm just going to say the David Beckham, Victoria Beckham template. Not necessarily just one, but like that idea of, you know, everyone's seen the doc probably by this point of him correcting her when she's talking about her dad being, you know, them being working class. And David Beckham's like, what car did your dad drive you into school? And it's a Rolls Royce. But that template is so good. And there's been so many good ones this year, but that's the one that stood out to me. What about you guys?
We're going to say the same one, Tron.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but you know what? I'm gonna show you guys something first. The last week we talked about destination web pages, right? You know what? One of the most important web pages in the world is Know Your Meme. Okay, and guess what? Your boy made it to the definition of the Victoria Beckham Know Your Meme page. Yep. Shout out to our boy John Woo, who's been on the podcast twice. He's the one. Jack sent it to me. Jack, you sent it to me, right? John's meme?
Yeah. Is he the first one?
He's the first English language one. So let me tell you what happened.
Okay.
John did this Know Your Meme template. He goes, we're very decentralized. David Beckham goes, be honest. And then Victoria Beckham says, I am being honest. And then David Beckham goes, what's your security model? And then she goes, a multi-sig. And he goes, thank you. John created this template that Jack sent to me in our three-way Twitter DM.
Notice I don't have a credit on Know Your Meme here.
Notice you don't have a credit. But you sent it to me. I replied to that. I retweeted John's tweet and I go, dude, this is incredible. What a meme. Can you send me the template? He posted the template and then I made this meme. I sent it to Chris Back and Alex Cohen. They also made killer memes out of this and this thing popped off. So there's a birth of a meme.
History in the making here.
And we were immortalized. So you see John Woo here November 29th and then Trung Phan. So, Bilal, I was going to say the same one, but since you said it, I'm going to go to Jack. I'm going to think of another one. But
I was going to say Vince.
The classic, the crying one, yeah?
Tearing up, Vince McMahon. The perfect sequel to round out the body of memes that contain Vince McMahon. The range of emotions expressed in those memes is incredible.
The best. Yeah, no, he's
we said he's a Hall of Fame meme guy, right? He's got the three faces in the chair, the smelling the money. This just and then he added this one. The walking incredible. Out. That's a great one. This one's
Shakespearean.
He is Shakespearean. But my answer, cheating a bit, but I'm going to say the OpenAI weekend. It's not meme of the year, but just that one of the...
That whole idea.
We talk about this, right? We talk about moments, like Silicon Valley Bank was one of those moments where people just memeing like crazy. The day that Facebook shut off because of its data center issue, memeing like crazy. Suez Canal, memeing like crazy. The OpenAI was a straight 96 hours of people losing their minds trying to get that sweet, sweet engagement, including myself. And obviously, Jack sees it all the time. Any crypto pump, the memes just get insane.
Oh,
right?
Incredible.
100%.
All right, let's move it along.
Are you guys all right for 10 minutes?
Let's
Jack,
poke on
right?
a couple more.
All right.
Song of the year. Let's do song of the year.
I'm just widening out to music because it could be an artist, it could be performance or something like that. I have a couple here if you want me to go, but I can let you guys go if you got one. All right, I'll just do real quick because this is real recency bias, but I'm going to throw in Jack Harlow and Dave. Stop giving me advice. Jack and I have been chatting about that a little bit. It probably isn't the best song of the year, but it's the one that came to mind when I read this back earlier. If you haven't heard it, you gotta go check it out. Our boy Dave from the UK, and obviously Jack Harlow's swaggiest guy on the beat as well, does a great job. And then I'll do Action Bronson Tiny Desk Concert. I shared that with you guys recently. NPR has this little thing where they're in a tiny little room and they basically do a little mini concert. And Action Bronson, the rapper / food documentary guy, it's actually a really beautiful little, I think it's 30-40 minutes, and people are playing real instruments, and he's just really unique on that. Those are my two for the year. What about you guys?
I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna say bad. So my son's really been getting into Bad Bunny, and no one in our house speaks Spanish, by the way. But my son's Spanish might be better than any of our Spanish. So this song's old, but I'm just cheating because we've been listening to Bad Bunny and whatever the algo is feeding us. But as soon as we hit it, so Ojitos Lindos is an incredible. I have no idea what it means.
So I love when Trung reads stuff and his pronunciation is brilliant. Go say that again, Trung, one more time.
Ojitos Lindos. That's OJITOS space LINDOS. I have no idea what these
was. It feeling
mean.
Peloton for you, Jack? Was that the
yeah. Donair.
Yeah.
Donair kebab.
So I'm just gonna, saying Bad Bunny's like it's not. I think he's been top artist for the last 3 years.
No, but
the algo has been feeding it.
That's great, man.
And then also the last one I will add for him is Mia, which is from 2016, but that's him and Drake, and Drake's breaking out the Spanish. That song is.
That's when you know.
And that means mine. So that I do know that word. That's it. That's it.
You have to say Drake is the king of jumping on every music trend subculture.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Trung, you're on mute again. You're on mute. Trung, you're on mute.
Sorry. Our boy Dan Runcie calls it the cosign. The Drake cosign.
Oh, yeah.
No, he calls it the Drake stimulus. Like when we get the J Powell stimulus.
Check,
the stimmy check. That's true. I mean, he'll be putting people on for sure.
Distribution stimmies.
There we go. Jack, what about you? I know you're a big music guy. You always got the bangers coming out. What you've been rocking in your car this year?
I think I said this earlier this year. Excuse me, boy. Young lad out of Bournemouth, England, the southern coast, the English Riviera, Jace. I think I sent you a couple of his
Riviera is so funny. That's beautiful. Wait, go on. What's the
great song called Bloodline by a guy called Jace?
Oh yeah, that's an incredible tune. Yeah, you sent me that.
I think he's only been putting out music for a few years, but I think this guy's going places, boys.
And he hasn't got that many views and listens on his music, and I think he's great. That song in particular.
When you find these artists that you look at this song that I'm talking about has 4,500 views on YouTube.
People
could be NIA.
When Jack calls something early, NIA listeners know what happens when Jack calls something early. So you go listen to Bloodline, people.
Yeah, it's a great tune.
We'll put a link in.
Okay.
Joe, what's the chorus? What's the hook, Jack? Do you remember?
A couple young G's on the come up.
There we go.
If I get my bloodline right, then I made it.
There we go. That's the come up feeling. Who doesn't want that feeling when you're listening to it? That's beautiful. Yeah. He knows what he's doing. All right, great.
Why don't we do this while we finish with this? Because this is a new question, and I know we've all done a little bit of traveling, not a ton. But why don't we just put this? What was our favorite travel spot for 2023? And then we can finish it off because I know Jack's got a boogie.
Yeah, go for it. Jack, you got one?
I'm doing the UAE, boys, some new part of the world I visited.
Oh, yeah. With a $1,000 haircut, caviar to the dome.
Yeah.
That was a wild story.
That was fun. Everywhere else, I think that was the only place I've been this year that I'd never been before. So go with the fresh one.
Beautiful.
It was great.
I love that.
Trunk, what about you, mate? Did we see each other in London this year? Was that this year?
Yeah, that was right before Athens. So I will say Athens. I gotta say, man, cliche, but the Acropolis, the Parthenon, Lindy.
We go.
Man, mind
hard
blowing.
To beat.
Yeah, so I'll say that.
History professor fan was going wild there.
Losing it.
Beautiful. I will say, also not a completely brand new idea, but still it's Lindy for that reason. Is in Italy, I went to Amalfi Coast and to Lake Garda, but I'll just say Lake Garda because in the US it's not as popular. I think Lake Como is really popular here. Lake Garda is beautiful as well and very popular in Europe. Exactly. But that place in particular where we stayed, it was a tiny little pocket. Actually, the cheapest hotel we stayed in the whole trip, little bed and breakfast. The 65-year-old woman who owns it made fresh bread for us every morning and beautiful views, private. You can walk down 5 minutes and be on a private beach. No one else was there on the rocks, and that was absolutely beautiful. So, yeah, I'll stick with that one.
Love that.
Nice very looking good spot. I'm just looking at it now.
Oh, very man. Nice. It's very,
Italy is hard to top. Incredible.
It's hard to beat. Italy. Yeah, I think that's the one thing we kind of talked about with the nomad stuff, like people moving around and figuring out where they want to stay. And there's like Portugal is great, but like, that's been the hot spot for a lot of nomad people in Europe. But there's reasons why we've been going to Spain and France and Italy and Greece forever. It's just like they're really hard to beat. Italy is kind of hard to beat, man. It's absolutely beautiful. I think we can either call it there unless you guys want to do one last thing of things you watched this year, like a movie or a documentary or something. I don't know if you have anything.
I mean, I'll do a quick one. Succession, easy. Love.
Oh, was that the finale this year?
Yeah, and you know what? That was actually my other meme of the year answer was all the Succession memes.
Oh, they were so
was Kendall Roy looking all shook up at the end.
No context Succession. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Oh, that's a great one.
I'll answer that. You guys go.
I'll do one. I don't even think it came out this year, but I watched it this year. Stutz on Netflix. Did you guys watch this? Jonah Hill his. Did you watch it, Jack? Yeah.
I watched the first episode of it. He's a visualized value, man. That guy was
exactly. And I thought it was cool. I tried watching it once when it first came out, and I wasn't in the right mood for it. So that might happen to you guys. Then I watched it again recently, and I found it really useful. And I think the guy is kind of a G. Like, it's basically his therapist. And they take a lot of the ideas that Jonah's learned from him. And look, a lot of these things are things you'll know intuitively, but still useful. A lot of the most useful things you need a reminder of. And we've talked about this on the pod a lot. You got to get your mind right. If there's one theme for the year going forward is always get your mind right. And Stutz, really, really worth checking out. I also think it was quite beautifully shot with the black and white. And there are a few things where they like have to keep it real. And I don't want to spoil it, but there's a scene where they like zoom out and be like, this is a green screen right now. And we're pretending to be in office. And I don't feel like right doing this sort of thing. So I don't want to spoil it for people, but definitely check that out if you haven't already. Jack, anything else on the last something to watch?
Oh man, best thing I've watched this year. I don't think they finished. I don't think it came out this year. Top Boy finished it finally.
Oh my god, you finally finished it, yeah?
Incredible.
These British cats.
Man, incredible. Top Boy, you gotta watch it, Trung, if you haven't.
I know.
It is so good. It is so good. All right, that's a great way to finish off. Thanks for being here, everyone. We appreciate all the love and support. I think next week we can do more like looking at a year ahead. Yeah, exactly. This is more the recap. We hope you guys had a great, holiday period. Spend lots of time with the fam and enjoy the New Year's. And we'll see you guys in 2024. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Peace. Thank you.